In the summer of 1978, a low-budget musical about high school crushes and chrome-plated hot rods detonated at the American box office and quietly rewired pop culture. Grease didn't just sell tickets, it sold a memory of youth so intoxicating that audiences lined up again and again, dragging parents, dates, and eventually their own kids back into the theater. On the surface, it was bubblegum, leather jackets, pink satin, drive-ins, and harmonies sweet enough to rot your teeth. But underneath that glossy fantasy was a production teetering on chaos, casting gambles that nearly backfired, songs written under contractual pressure, actors collapsing from heat, and creative decisions that could have sunk the entire enterprise. Every iconic moment you remember was the result of a risk someone took when failure was a real possibility. And the most shocking part? The film almost ended very differently. And if one man hadn't said no, Grease might never have become the legend you think you know. 1. The role that rewrote Hollywood history. The most decisive moment in Grease happened before filming began. Danny Zuko was first offered to Henry Winkler, already iconic as the Fonz on Happy Days. Winkler feared being permanently typecast as a greaser and declined. That refusal opened the door for John Travolta, fresh off the seismic success of Saturday Night Fever. Travolta brought not only charisma, but legitimate musicality and trained movement. His Danny carried vulnerability beneath bravado, which made the romance believable instead of cartoonish. One decision separated television nostalgia from cinematic legend. Had Winkler accepted, Grease might have felt like an extended sitcom episode. Instead, it became a generational anthem. Hollywood mythology often hinges on a single choice, and this one altered careers, box office history, and the identity of the modern movie musical. 2. The ballad that didn't exist until it saved the story. Halfway through production, the filmmakers realized Sandy lacked an emotional anchor. Olivia Newton-John had a contractual condition. She needed a solo. The stage version offered none. Songwriter John Farrar was commissioned late, and Hopelessly Devoted to You emerged after principal photography had wrapped. Newton-John returned alone to film it, which explains the solitary backyard setting. The isolation intensified Sandy's vulnerability and shifted the tone from breezy teen comedy to genuine heartbreak. The song earned an Academy Award nomination and dominated radio charts, becoming inseparable from the film's legacy. Without that late addition, Sandy might have remained reactive rather than emotionally dimensional. What began as a business stipulation evolved into the film's emotional core. Sometimes the most enduring artistry is born from negotiation and urgency rather than inspiration alone. 3. The finale, built on adrenaline and instinct. You're the One That I Want was not part of the original Broadway ending. Producers wanted a contemporary pop hook to maximize commercial appeal. The song arrived so late that choreography had minimal rehearsal time. The carnival setting was real, the energy barely contained, and the chemistry electric. That urgency pulses through every frame. The spontaneity audiences feel was not an illusion, it was controlled chaos. The replacement of the stage finale transformed the film from nostalgic homage into pop phenomenon. Instead of closing with theatrical tradition, Grease exploded into modern musical cinema. What might have been a conventional curtain call became a cross-generational duet that still dominates dance floors decades later. 4. The adults who played teenagers on purpose. Rydell High looked convincing, yet most of its students were adults. Stockard Channing was 33, portraying 17-year-old Rizzo. Many cast members hovered around 30. The production prioritized performance, polish over realism. Experienced actors delivered sharper comedic timing, vocal control, and layered emotion. That choice subtly shifted the tone. Grease doesn't feel like adolescence unfolding in real time. It feels like adolescence remembered through adulthood. The heightened aesthetic, bright costumes, stylized movement reflects memory rather than documentary truth. Instead of authenticity, the filmmakers pursued mythology. The result is high school amplified into legend. 5. The ending that refused to stay grounded. The final image of Grease still divides audiences, Danny and Sandy driving straight into the sky. The stage musical ended with everyone firmly on the ground. The film chose ascension, no setup, no explanation, just a convertible defying gravity. The choice wasn't careless, it was consistent. From the animated opening credits to the fantasy musical numbers, Grease operates in heightened reality, the flying car seals that contract with the audience. It suggests youth itself is weightless, untethered, impossible to hold down. The moment works because the film has already asked viewers to believe in spontaneous choreography and angels descending from staircases. By the time the car lifts off, logic is irrelevant. Emotion rules. The ending doesn't aim for realism, it aims for release. 6. The heat that nearly shut down the dance. The National Bandstand sequence looks electric, but it was filmed in punishing heat inside a California gym with no air conditioning. Massive production lights turned the space into an oven. Performers wore heavy costumes under temperatures that reportedly soared past comfort. Smiles stayed bright, while exhaustion built behind the scenes. Several cast members struggled with dehydration. The camera captured vibrant choreography. The cast endured survival conditions. That strain may explain the raw intensity pulsing through the scene. The energy feels unfiltered because it was. Hollywood musicals often polish away discomfort, yet here the discomfort sharpened performance. Watching it now, you see glossy teenage competition. They remember sweat pooling on the floor and fighting through dizziness. Sometimes cinematic joy is born from sheer endurance. 7. The river that wasn't as glamorous as it looked. The drag race in the Los Angeles River appears rebellious and cinematic, but the location was far from pristine. The concrete channel collected stagnant runoff, and cast and crew were repeatedly sprayed during filming. Illness followed. Director Randall Kleiser reportedly pushed through fever. Actress Annette Charles completed her scene under severe medical distress before heading back to the hospital. None of that turmoil is visible on screen. What audiences see is adrenaline and defiance. What happened behind the camera was grit and risk. The sequence became iconic because it looks dangerous and thrilling. The irony is that it truly was. Greece's polished surface often hides the vulnerability beneath it. 8. The corporate war hidden in a malt shop. Look closely at the diner scenes and you'll notice blurred signage. That distortion wasn't artistic choice, it was corporate conflict. Coca-Cola branding appeared on set, but producer Alan Carr had secured a promotional agreement with Pepsi. Reshooting would have been costly, so optical effects were used to obscure Coke logos directly on the film negative. The result is subtle but visible. Even a nostalgic jukebox fantasy was subject to commercial pressure. Greece may celebrate youthful rebellion, yet its production was deeply entangled in business realities. Those blurred posters are a reminder that Hollywood magic is always negotiated. 9. The song that shifted the spotlight. Greased Lightning originally belonged to Kennedy, portrayed by Jeff Conaway. As John Travolta's star surged, the number shifted to Danny Zuko. The reassignment amplified Travolta's dominance and reduced Conaway's big moment. During filming, Conaway suffered a back injury that led to long-term struggles. On screen, the sequence radiates swagger and control. Off-screen, the redistribution of spotlight reflected Hollywood's unforgiving hierarchy. Stardom often concentrates attention in one direction. Grease immortalized Travolta's performance, but it also revealed how quickly the industry recalibrates around rising momentum. 10. The box office shockwave no one predicted. Produced for roughly $6 million, Grease exploded into a global phenomenon, earning nearly $400 million worldwide. It dethroned The Sound of Music and remained one of the highest-grossing musicals for decades until challenged by Beauty and the Beast and later Wicked. Critics offered mixed reactions, yet audiences returned again and again. The soundtrack dominated charts. Repeat viewings transformed it from film into ritual. The industry learned that nostalgia, when fused with contemporary pop energy, could generate seismic returns. Grease didn't merely succeed, it redefined the commercial potential of the movie musical for a modern era. Grease endures because it captures reinvention at its most seductive. Sandy transforms. Danny softens. Everyone performs the version of themselves they hope will be loved. Beneath the spectacle lies a familiar truth. Identity is fluid in youth and more complicated in adulthood. For audiences who first saw it in 1978 and now carry decades of lived experience, Grease is more than entertainment. It is a time capsule of possibility and a reminder that small decisions, roles declined, songs added, risks embraced, can shape cultural history. Nearly 5 decades later, Grease endures because it captures a universal tension, the desire to be loved, and the temptation to reinvent yourself to earn it. Beneath the harmonies and hot rods lies a sharper truth. Youth feels limitless, but identity always carries consequences. The film's legacy isn't just its soundtrack or box office dominance. It's the reminder that small decisions, roles declined, songs added, risks embraced can echo for generations. Grease became timeless not because it was perfect, but because it committed fully to its fantasy and trusted audiences to feel it. If this deep dive brought back memories, hit like, subscribe, and join us for more behind-the-scenes stories about the films that shaped our lives. The past still has secrets, and we're just getting started.